What if I told you hearing, it's okay, it was a mistake, as a child would have done more for your relationships and your career than any whooping ever did? A lot of us grew up with parents who believed talking down to, humiliating, and shaming their kids was a form of teaching, a form of character development. Now, on the contrary, research shows people who were verbally shamed and put down throughout childhood are more likely to develop depression, anxiety, and identity confusion in adulthood. Sorry to tell you this, but what you call tough love was survival mode parenting from somebody raised on whoopings, withheld hugs, and gaslighting. You wasn't nurtured, you was trained to mask your needs, barz. Now, many of us were expected to learn discipline from folks who couldn't even control their rage, lies, spending, or who they slept with, but was out here weaponizing Bible verses like brass knuckles. So as a child, instead of protected, you were punished. Instead of guided, you were guilt-tripped. Instead of taught, you were threatened. Instead of reassured, you were ridiculed. Instead of listened to, you were labeled. All in the name of shame. And this might explain why your self-doubt get more airtime than your self-care. Barz. My name is Tijuana Jackson, the people's mentor. I help grown folks finally get clear on the pain they've overlooked so they can achieve the quality of life they deserve and aspire to. I use humor to teach what school skipped, church shamed, and your daddy dodged, because I believe if you work through your pain, you get to serve through your purpose. And it all starts with my free coaching. If you want to get some of this free game, link is in the description. Now, what if I told you shame got better attendance than your actual daddy? I ain't saying that to be cute. I'm saying that because I didn't even realize I was living my whole damn life in response to a tone, not just trauma or a beating, but a tone. The tone my mama used to hit me with when I made mistakes or needed something. That what you want now breath that'll come out her nostrils before words even leave her mouth. That was the sound that taught me how to lie. I ain't even know it. I thought I was being strong. I thought I was being independent. Turns out I was just trained to deny my needs and flaws, because making mistakes, needing shit, got me belittled. So instead of asking for help, I learned to act like I already had it together. And people praised me for it. You so mature, you so independent. Nah, actually, I just got really good at avoiding ridicule, because being talked down to, being made fun of, being shamed by my parents, classmates, and teachers ate a hole through my 7-8-year-old soul. Felt like I was getting mugged by dwarves with semen on their hands. And when I would get bullied or beat up, I had two choices. Keep it to myself to avoid being made fun of by my cousins, or try to puff up and take things to extremes to protect my fragile childhood ego. And I already know a lot of folks is gonna say, oh, you too sensitive. We talk down on each other for fun. It's battle rap. But here's what you might not know. When a kid gets degraded, called stupid, lazy, worthless, it don't just hurt in that moment. It rewires that child's brain. And that child will go on to do anything to avoid experiencing that feeling of humiliation ever again. That was me. I ain't get taught how to process emotion. I got taught how to perform for acceptance and approval. What's wrong? Nothing. Meanwhile, I'm in the bathroom trying to realign my dislocated jaw with my dislocated shoulder. Because in my house, the truth had consequences, but pretending got rewarded. Barz! I knew not to tell my mom the truth about her home decorating choices, because I'd probably get body slammed and bullied for the rest of the week by her garage sale junkie ass. So look, before I get into how shame affects our relationships, I gotta show you how shame might actually show up in your real life. One time as a kid, I lost my lunch money on the way to school. Regular kid shit, but I already knew walking through that door I had to come up with a cover story. Not because I feared discipline, but because I feared humiliation. In my house, it wasn't, when might it be? It was, what the hell is wrong with you? You stupid or just dumb? You gonna end up just like your sorry ass uncle. See, discipline corrects behavior. Shame attacks identity. And that shit stick like peanut butter to the roof of a child's brain. And the worst part, I started using that same voice on myself. I became my own bully, my own interrogator. Couldn't even make a small mistake without a full-blown internal beatdown. Why you ain't think that through? You always do this shit. No wonder she ain't text you back. That's how shame works. It don't leave when the parents leave. It packs a bag and moves into your inner dialogue. Got the Rick James shoes on your mental couch? Living rent-free makes every relationship feel like a test you gon' fail unless you perfect or invisible. And I was good at both. I either performed or disappeared. But either way, I was never fully there. I became the king of selective honesty, truth with conditions, vulnerability with a mask, confessions with disclaimers. Because I learned early, when you tell the truth, it better be dressed up enough to survive the judgment. Barz. That's why some of y'all out here thinking silence is strength, that withholding your truth is maturity, that disappearing is dignity. Nah, that's shame calling the shot. That's survival mode. That's childhood trauma running your grown-ass life like a drill sergeant. Has anyone of my ilk seen the research from the Child Mind Institute or developmental psychologist Mary Ainsworth that says kids who grow up being shamed don't just lack confidence, they lack permission to feel, to fail, to need. And without that, they fake strength, then crash in private. Type bars in the comments if you know who this sound like. And it's always the high functioning ones that crash the hardest. The straight A students, the caregivers, the overachievers. Because when your whole identity is built on proving you're not a burden, you'll let yourself break before you let yourself be seen. Bars. You gonna hate hearing this? But shame is the reason being called on your shit always feels like an attack. It's why your immediate reflex is to say whatever will spare you shame and humiliation, even if everything coming out your mouth is a lie. In fact, people who've grown up being shamed for their childhood mistakes, social and economic status, diagnosed or undiagnosed mental health issues end up becoming some of the biggest liars on the planet and some of the biggest politicians too. They will go to such extremes to defend a lie that they will make the truth not even worth it. And that's what's crazy. You sit here thinking, how could somebody go to such extremes to defend a lie? They ain't defending a lie. They defending themselves from deep-rooted shame, because in their minds, the ridicule for that flaw, mistake, or shortcoming is gonna hurt them the same way it hurt they 7, 8-year-old soul 30, 40 years ago. I just aired out all the Gen X like a pissy mattress. Type bars in the comments if you just heard the truth. Before I break down how shame sabotages relationships, now would be a good time to hit the like button if you like something, and if you motivated as hell, hit that notification bell. And the quickest way to make this channel grow is to share this with your folks. Bars. Y'all wanna hear a wildlife story that'll probably change the way you treat children? When I was a kid, my mama had a Puerto Rican friend who was married to a man who behaved like a wolf. He'd always be eating, sitting or standing in the dark corners, didn't socialize, didn't want to be seen, head on a swivel, always watched people out the corner of his eye, but never made eye contact. Turns out, whenever he peed the bed as a child, his father would put the mattress out on the fire escape to dry in the sun and tell all the neighbors. Instead of raising a man, he raised a werewolf. Bars! Here go a straight up fact I wish I could deny. As I got older, my deep-seated fear of shame didn't just vanish, it put on a tie, got a LinkedIn profile and started calling itself ambition. Suddenly, I was grinding, hustling, staying 10 steps ahead, not out of vision, but out of fear. I wasn't working towards purpose. I was working to outrun that same voice that used to say, you ain't shit, you ugly, you worthless, look at your teeth. Every accomplishment was just another excuse to say, see, I'm not stupid, see, I'm not lazy, see, I'm worth something. But deep down, I still felt like that kid standing in front of the class hoping nobody noticed my knockoff Adidas. That's what shame does. It gets sophisticated. You don't even recognize it no more, because now it look like work ethic, like standard, like I just don't tolerate mediocrity. But let's keep it real. I was less afraid of being mediocre and more afraid of being exposed, more afraid of reliving the poverty I was shamed for as a child, more afraid of having the bummiest clothes or the junkiest house on the block, because that's what I was shamed for. Would y'all believe I paid for my own braces at the age of 15? But then I got popped for credit card fraud, so my mama made me give them back before I went to juvie. You know who I thought was more attractive when she was thick? Dr. Brene Brown. She could still get it, but according to her, shame thrives in silence, secrecy, and judgment. So what do a lot of us do? We hide, we lie, we joke, we make ourselves useful so nobody sees how useless we feel. That's how you get the over-helper, the over-explainer, the over-apologizer, the over-compensator, the dude who can't stop talking about leveling up, but ain't never sat still long enough to ask what the hell am I even building this for? Because when your identity is built on avoiding shame, you stay letting the fear of shame define you. Every time I got sent to juvie, my mama would say, ain't you got no shame? When I would come home from the joint, wasn't no homecoming party, because my mama didn't want to telegraph the fact that I went to prison in the first place. And let me say this, because I know some of y'all feeling this in your guts right now. Just because you high achieving don't mean you heal. Just because you never talk about your past don't mean it stopped talking to you. And just because you strong don't mean you not still scared of being seen. Shame don't retire, it rebrands. And if you don't address it, you spend your whole life building a resume for a job that don't even fit your soul. Bars. If you are wondering why your relationships never work out, if you are wondering why you either end up feeling rejected, unseen, or blindsided in your relationship, it's probably because you were more committed to avoiding shame than you were committed to achieving connection. Let me say it simple and plain. The deeper bond comes with deeper levels of honesty. A few videos back, I talked about historical and psychological psychological context, the story behind your stance. Well, if shame is your boogeyman, you can't be honest enough to provide any of that. So your relationship and your connections will always remain on surface level. And here's the weird flip. Those of us who grew up being shamed are often the first to shame others, loved ones, co-workers, classmates, and even people minding their own business on the internet talking about you ought to be ashamed of yourself. Let me tell you when it really hit me. I was mid-convo with this woman I've been dating, real one, sharp. She said, I noticed you downplay your wins. I said, nah, I'm just humble. She said, no, you think you lose what you celebrate, and you ashamed of being seen truly enjoying yourself. And that line cracked something open, because the truth was, I didn't trust joy. Joy felt like a setup. In my hood, the moment you smiled too hard, somebody was right there to snatch it back. Oh, you think you special now? Look at this little cocky muff. Or worse, you get ostracized. You get the silent treatment, just that cold absence, no validation, no acknowledgement. Like your happiness inconvenienced the whole damn block. That's when I realized I was managing my image the way people manage debt. You know you can't spell debt without EBT. I was keeping it just below default, hoping nobody checks the balance. Never too loud, never too needy, never too visible. That's what shame trains you to do. Curate yourself, make yourself digestible, make your story palatable, and over time, that performance becomes identity. You ever wonder why some of y'all feel exhausted just being around people? That ain't always social anxiety. That's shame fatigue. Psychologists call it chronic impression management. You spend years trying to control how others see you, and before you know it, you ain't got no clue of who you actually is. Just different costumes for different rooms. Barz. And here's the kicker. If somebody does like you, it don't even land. You think they don't really know me. How could they like me? Because you've never been fully seen and accepted at the same time. So your body literally don't know how to receive it. That ain't a flaw. That's trauma. That's a nervous system trained to brace for impact every time affection shows up. Do y'all understand what I do as a clarity coach? You see how I'm digging into your shit right now and you can't even deny it? This is what I mean by deeper self-awareness, and this is how I stop you from living beneath your potential. If you want to schedule a free coaching, link is in the description. And this goes deeper for black folks, especially men. We not just managing image, we managing stereotypes, suspicions, assumptions. You show too much vulnerability and suddenly you weak. You show too much confidence and now you arrogant. There's no winning if you play by their rules. So instead of confronting that impossible game, we master the art of absence in plain sight. We master the art of code switching. Show up, but don't show out. Speak, but don't reveal. Smile, but don't feel. All to avoid the one thing we were punished for earliest, which is being fully ourselves. Boss, show me a child who grew up on belittlement, and I'll show you a child who will become a grown-ass man who performs in relationships, avoids the hard combos, and calls it keeping the peace. Nah, you just scared to tell the truth without losing love. That's the same man who hates women but hires hookers. The same woman who sabotages true love and security for ego and escapism. This is why I tell folks, shame don't make you strong, it just makes you dishonest. And that ain't strength, that's a survival tactic. I ain't saying go around trauma dumping, but if every version of you is edited for comfort, you're not growing, you maintaining. And maintenance, well, that's the enemy of evolution. Y'all ever notice how psychology always be on some reverse Uno card shit? Like, you anxious, sit still, you paranoid, be vulnerable? Well, surprisingly, if you want to heal shame, you got to show yourself compassion. Sounds corny, but in this case, the obvious move is the right one. Shame don't dissolve through grind, flex, or overachievement. Shame dissolves when you speak to yourself the way them grown folks shoulda. You talk to yourself like, you messed up, but you still matter. You failed, but you are not a failure. You lied, but you're not unlovable. It's still time to go clean that up. But here's the kicker. Self-compassion ain't weakness, it's reparenting. It's you stepping in to give yourself the grace your people couldn't afford emotionally, psychologically, or financially. You give yourself the apology you never got. You show yourself the patience you were punished for needing. You extend forgiveness to your damn self even when your childhood taught you that love had to be earned through pain. And let me tell you right now, you can't heal shame in an environment that speaks fluent humiliation. So if your friends only love you when they roasting you, if your family think closeness means tearing each other down, if every joke feel like a backhand slap with a smile, you're not healing. You probably just surviving. You're not bonding, you trauma bonding. That ain't culture. That's just unresolved shit dressed up in people that look like you. And yeah, we grew up in the dozens. We grew up where vulnerability got you clowned and kindness was seen as liability. But this new season ain't got room for that old script. Barz, start blessing yourself with the kind of grace you was never offered. Start talking to yourself like your inner child just had the worst day of his life. Start leaving rooms where shame is served with every sentence. Because the truth is, shame don't make you better. Shame just makes you hide longer. And the longer you hide, the harder it gets to come back home to your actual self. Dr. Christian Neff breaks this down in her work on self-compassion. Kids who are raised in environments high in shame and low in empathy develop conditional worth, which means they believe they're only lovable if they are impressive, quiet, or useful. Not just as children, but well into adulthood. That's why so many of us confuse connection with performance. We don't bond, we audition. We don't communicate, we curate. And then we wonder why we feel empty even in the presence of love. Because deep down, we know it ain't us they really love. It's the version of us we've presented to avoid being rejected, which I really go deep on in this video right here.